right. Come on, Tucker, let's go. Man, what a gorgeous day. Woo! So what we're doing today is we're laying down a tarp to kill some of the weeds before spring. So we've got a really messy storage shed and we're feeling that. But one of these days, we're gonna tidy up and it's gonna be great. Until then, we're making do. Engineering right here, some farm ingenuity. My dad thought it'd be a good idea to put the farm tube. It's a traditional farm tube. It's a traditional farm tube used for carrying
back in the
silage tarp.
The late 1900s. In the late 1900s, this is how we carried silage tarp.
So this is carrying on the tradition here. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're here at the garden. If you remember in the previous video, I showed you some chickweed growing here in these unused beds. And I said that we were gonna clean it up in the spring. Well, the spring is actually sprung early. We're gonna clean it up right now. But not by hand, not by any machine. We're not gonna tear it out. Instead, we're gonna use that black plastic tarp over there. And we're gonna lay it out on all the beds so that it's gonna trap in the heat, and it's also gonna make it so that there's no moisture getting in. So everything that's growing here is gonna die. And then that way in the spring, it'll be fresh, bare soil, and we'll be able to plant all types of plants for everybody to enjoy. So it's gonna be great. Doing a last minute spinach harvest before the tarp covers it up. While Mom's doing that, let's go grab some T-posts. All right, let's stretch this tarp out. So we got the tarp all laid out, and we've got T-posts and other heavy objects on the ends and in the middle to keep the tarp from blowing away. And I just want to talk about real quick why we're doing this. Because another main way that we could solve the same issue of having weeds on the beds is we could just till it up. But there's two reasons why we don't want to do that. And I'll tell you them. So the first reason is when you till up the land, you get rid of a lot of the plants that are growing there, right? But what you don't get rid of is the seeds. The seeds just miss the tillers, and it creates this fresh, soft ground that's great for planting plants in, but it also is great for weeds. So you put your plants in the ground, and as soon as your plants come up, the weeds come up too, and they become very difficult to get out. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's something called mycelium, which is fungus, and they create these networks in the soil. So all the soil you see here under this grass, there's lots of fungus forming these mycelium networks around. And the mycelium networks and the roots of the plants, they work in symbiosis. So the mycelium is able to bring nutrients to the plant's roots, and the roots is able to bring sugar from the sun, or the sugar from photosynthesis, to the mycelium. So the mycelium gets energy from the plants, and the plants get nutrients from the soil from the mycelium. They rely on this network that runs across the soil for them to function. So you lose all of that mycelium action when you till up. So that's why when we lay this tarp out, we're killing all the plants that we need to get out of the way, but we're also keeping the mycelium there. And in addition to that, when the weed seeds come up in March, the tarp will still be there, and so the weed seeds will come up and then they'll die. So we'll get rid of those seeds that are still in the ground. So we'll have really clean beds in the summer and in the spring. So yeah, thanks for following along. We got our tarp down. This is great. Hey guys, welcome to Food for Thought. My mom gave me the idea of calling this section Food for Thought. I think it's great, so thank you, Mom. Today we got The Art of Living by Epictetus again. My checkout is running out of time at the library, so I'm gonna get another one in before I gotta return it. So this header is called Start Living Your Ideals. And here it goes. Now is the time to get serious about living your ideals. Once you have determined the spiritual principles you wish to exemplify, abide by these rules as if they were laws, as if it were indeed sinful to compromise them. Don't mind if others don't share your convictions. How long can you afford to put off who you really want to be? Your nobler self cannot wait any longer. So I like this message, and it's very, encouraging to start now. Like, now's the time. If you've got the idea of what you want to be, and you have the values and you have the practices that you believe are going to take you to where you want to be, there's no sense in waiting. Now is the time. Now is the best time. It always is. And I love that message, because it's really that first step of I'm gonna actively work to make my life condition better. That is the most important step, because all the other steps follow from that. There's an old saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins under one's feet. And so it may seem like a big journey, but that first step is important. So I love that idea. And I also really like the idea of this. Don't mind if others don't share your convictions. Because something that I've struggled with in putting a lot of these philosophical ideas into practice is when I determine what I think is good, and I think that's something that I want to do, I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to practice this. And I see other people doing the opposite of that. They don't have that same value as me. It becomes very frustrating for me, because I've determined that thing is good, and they're doing something that's not that, so it must be bad. And I don't want to be around that. I don't want to be around badness. And I don't think that's a very healthy way of looking at things. And so it says, don't mind if others don't share your convictions. So in a way that can't get in our way when we're trying to put our principles of improvement into place. So how do we manage that? Well, let me read this other passage. This is called Call Things by Their Right Names. When we name things correctly, we comprehend them correctly, without adding information or judgments that aren't there. Does someone bathe quickly? Don't say he bathes poorly, but quickly. Name the situation as it is. Don't filter it through your judgments. Does someone drink a lot of wine? Don't say she's a drunk, but that she drinks a lot. Unless you possess a comprehensive understanding of her life, how do you know if she's a drunk? Don't risk being beguiled by appearances and constructing theories and interpretations based on distortions through misnaming. Give your assent only to what is actually true. So I think this kind of is a little bit of a key into that question of, if we are adopting values, how do we exist with people that don't share the same values and still hold on to our values and still are able to interact and be kind and accepting of other people? And I think by calling things by their right names, that's a key into it. So imagine there's someone, let's say I have this value, I like to pick up trash and put it in the trash can. And I see someone littering, putting trash out in nature, that initially it's like a reaction, right? And I'm going to say they're bad because they're doing this thing. But is that calling it by what it actually is, or is that creating this own, constructing this own theory and interpretations? I think the latter. I think I'm missing that step. All that I really see is a person throwing trash into the environment. And so calling it by its name is that person is throwing trash into their environment. But does that make them bad? I don't think so, because I have to recognize for myself that I wasn't born with the value of picking up trash. I learned that value. I came to that understanding through the experiences in my life. And this person over here doesn't have those experiences. So, and I can't really say if they're bad, because if we go back to this first thing, it says here, once you've determined the spiritual principles you wish to exemplify, abide by these rules as if they were laws, as if they were laws. And so I don't know if that person has chosen that the spiritual principle of not littering and picking up trash, they might not have chosen that that is something that they want to put into practice. And so these rules that we give ourselves because we think that they're good, they're not really true laws. They're laws that we create for ourselves. Every human has their own concept of what's good, and that's fine. And we're trying to get to a higher and higher concept. It's not that it's just all like whatever you want it to be. I don't think, at least. I think we're all trying to get to a higher and higher concept. I want to live in a world where everybody doesn't litter and everybody picks up trash. But to call people bad for not doing that, for not being in that same page as me, isn't really fair, because they don't have the same life as me. They don't have the same values. So the best thing that I can do is try to share my experience with them and see it as, and try to share it as something good that will also benefit them. Because I think it does benefit me to pick up trash, and it benefits the world. So I want to share that benefit with other people. But I shouldn't come at it with this idea that there's something wrong with this person, they need to be fixed. That's a preconceived notion. And if we remember back to the story with Winnie the Pooh and the uncarved block, if we behave like Rabbit, if I'm going out there like, I know this person's bad, I know how to get them fixed, I'm probably going to end up lost. Okay, or worse, with an enemy. This person might not like me. And that's understandable. But if I kind of come in it as Pooh with the honey, like if I'm smelling the honey, if I recognize that this person has the potential for goodness, the potential to learn in the values that I share and to share in that goodness, to learn the values I share and to share in that goodness, that's the honey. And if I smell that and I have a clear mind and I let go of the conception that they're bad because they're littering, then I can smell that honey, and that honey will lead me to where I want to go, which is the sharing of the values that I hold. And yeah, I think that's a cool way of looking at it. So I like combining stuff together. I like finding consilience is the word I use for it, when different sort of teachings have a similar message. So this is Stoicism and Taoism in the last book. So if you haven't seen that last video, go watch it, because it's a good story at the end. You can just skip to the end if you want to, but it's a good story about Winnie the Pooh and Taoism. And if you have seen it, thank you for watching. And thank you for watching this video. Have a blessed night. Let's come up with a catchphrase. Chew on that. Chew on that, says my mom. We'll go with that for today. Chew on that. That's actually pretty good.